All right, and welcome back. So today we are going to be learning about what's called compound interest. This is a subtopic of exponential growth and decay, which is section 9.3 in your textbook. So last class we talked about how to calculate exponential growth and decay. This time we're going to be talking about specifically compound interest. So please have out your guided notes for section 9.3 because we're going to be going back to them, looking at the back side of your notes to answer a couple questions and talk about compound interest. Let's begin. All right, so a special type of exponential growth is called compound interest, and it's of the formula A is equal to P times 1 plus R divided by N raised to the N times T power. And it looks a little bit complicated, but we're going to break it down. So let's talk about what each aspect means. A is the total balance after however many years, so T years. P is going to be the original amount. So if you start with $100, your P value would be 100. R is going to be what's called the interest rate. So you can think of it as just like a rate. We just have a specific name for it. We call it the interest rate, which you've probably heard of in life so far. N is the number of times the interest is compounded in 1 year. And we're going to talk about specific values and how we apply them very soon. And again, T is a number of years. So once we start to find these specific values, we can substitute them in, calculate, and then solve. But let's talk about the terminology that we're going to have to know that's not included in your guided notes. So please make sure we're copying these down or thinking about how we would apply these. So when we talk about compounding, N is the number of times the interest is compounded in 1 year. There's a lot of different phrases that we're going to hear about how many times it's getting compounded. We can hear annually, that means 1 time per year. So if you are compounded annually, you're happening once a year. Semi-annually or semi-annually means 2 times a year. Semi, like a semicircle is half a circle, half a year, twice a year. Quarterly would be 4 times a year. Bi-monthly means 6 times a year, meaning every 2 months. Every 2 months would be bi-monthly, which happens 6 times because there's 12 months in a year. Divided by 2 is 6. Monthly is 12 times. So if it's getting compounded monthly, it's occurring 12 times in 1 year. Bi-weekly means every 2 weeks. So it's going to be 26 times in 1 year. And lastly, weekly. That's 52 times per year. So these are some important terminologies that we're going to have to be aware of because they're going to change and alter our amount of money once we start to talk about compound interest and compound growth. So please make sure we have these down. And when you're ready, let's talk about an example that's on your guided notes. So the example that's on your notes says, write a compound interest function to model $15,000 invested at a rate of 3% compounded quarterly. Then find the balance after 8 years. So real quick, just a reminder, our compound formula is A is equal to P times 1 plus R over N, all raised to the N times T power. So we need to identify specific values. Well, our starting amount is 15,000. Our rate is 3%. It's getting compounded quarterly, which means it's going to be occurring 4 times. So our N in the denominator inside our parenthesis and the N in the exponent is going to be 4, and then we're talking about 8 years. So if it's 8 years, our T value is going to be 8. So all we have to do is substitute into our formula and go from there. So this is going to be our overall function because we don't know for how long just yet. Technically the problem says after 8 years, but first we wanted to write the compound function and then find the balance after 8 years. So this is going to be our function, 15,000 times 1.0075 raised to the 4t power. Now we know that 8 is going to be our value of t. It's 8 years, so we substitute it in. So now we have the exponent of 4 times 8, which is 32. And now we take out our calculator, and we find that we get about $19,051.67. So in those 8 years, you made just over $4,000 by compound interest, which is a beautiful thing, by the way. And we're going to be talking more about this, especially in class. But with this in mind, please work on problems. Come on, you can do it. Here we go. Please work on problems 5 through 6 on the guided notes. Again, this is for section 9.3. So we should be working on problems 5 through 6 on the guided notes for 9.3. Keep up the great work, kiddos. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. I'll talk to you soon.